Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start the video, I want to introduce you to the first sponsor of this channel, Raid Shadow Legends. Go sign up now and use the code VertigoSucks for a limited time epic new hero, the diabolic Fire Elemental. Wait, what? I don't understand. Sorry guys, the production just told me that I'm horribly wrong. This is what? Gothic? What the hell are you even talking about? Alright guys, let's not beat around the bush, let's talk about the demon. But first things first. When they gave us this screenshot of the Remake's new design of this demon, they also said, hey guys, this will not be the regular demon, this will be the one that is guarding Zarda's tower. Okay. And they also added that there will be two different demon types. Regular demons and the demon lords, which we later encounter in the Sleeper Temple, for example. Well, with that said, let's have a look at that bad boy, the fiery menace. Well, to be fair, and to be very frank, this is the worst design that we got so far, in my opinion. He looks very skeleton-like. He's got like the typical skeleton skull with horns. And there is fire coming out of every orifice. And it's just too much, in my opinion. I don't know, we haven't seen him in-game. We actually haven't seen anything. No gameplay whatsoever. But the screenshot is just too much, in my opinion. There's too much visual noise going on in general. All the flames and all that. And we talk about that a little bit later with another screenshot. But I don't know. The only thing that's kinda demonesque, like the only remnants from the original demon that I can find in this particular design, is the wings. And that he has, well, the original demon had some kind of tail, you know, the dangly thing instead of legs. But this boy now has multiple tendrils, multiple limbs, which looks kind of crazy. And people already said it looks like, or at least it looks a little bit like the demon from Arcania. I've never played that game, I never will, and I take their word for it. However, other people also pointed out that this bad boy kind of looks AI generated. And I can see where they are coming from. It looks very, very generic. At least if you compare it to the original demon. And we are talking about the original demon. Now, let's have a look. The attributes when I look at this creature that come to my mind is fleshy, muscular, and veiny. So, very biological in a sense, right? If you take a look at its head, you have these weird, creepy things, these creeping things alongside his head. I don't know. I always wondered what they were. They kind of look like tendrils. Maybe that's the demon's version of hair. I don't know. But it looks creepy and crazy, and again, very fleshy. Then obviously you have these crazy eyes that he has, with this very sick green and these very small pupils, and it seems like, you know, if you stare at him you go mad. He's got this very crazy look in his eyes. He's got this very, very big teethy grin, this huge maw with uneven teeth, which looks very monstrous. He's got, you know, like some additional tendrils dangling at his chin as some kind of beard, I guess. Well, whatever. And then you have a look at the general silhouette. He's very broad. He's very buff. My man never skipped neck day. As you can see, he's got those very, very muscular arms, very long forearms, ending in these big claws, very menacing. Around his neck, you can kind of see that he's having some sort of scaly skin. And it almost appears that because of the muscles, he appears to be hunched over. But it's just, you know, he's just a mountain of muscle, and it's just an illusion. I gotta say, in my opinion, even back in the day when I saw him the first time, I thought that the wings are a little bit tiny, that the proportions are a little bit off. But hey, it is what it is. If you take a look at his belly, that kind of reminds me of the underside of a slug. If you've ever picked up a slug and looked below it, you know, and you have this weird smooth surface, this is what it reminds me of. Obviously, it doesn't seem to be so smooth, but whatever. Yeah, what can I say? Other people already mentioned that he kind of looks Lovecraftian, and I can totally confirm that. He looks like one of these creatures of Lovecraft's universe, just because he has this very believable anatomy, you know, with all that flesh and those veins and those muscles, and it's crazy. And I can see him live wherever he comes from this alternate dimension or different kind of plane, whatever. I can see him in this world, breathing and living and doing things, while if I look back at the new design, it looks like a fire elemental. And that is basically it, you know. It reminds me a little bit of the fire elementals from Skyrim. But, well, I cannot really believe that they took such a different approach. But again, we haven't seen the regular demon, and we haven't seen the demon lord yet. So, well, let's move on, shall we? So, let's talk about the fire lizard. But let's have a look at the older versions first, because we actually got two versions, different versions. In Gothic 1, we have the fire lizard that has the same skin tone like the regular lizard. It's more like a beige tone. He's got the iconic red sail on his back, identifying him as a fire lizard. But the Gothic 2 version has a different texture. Again, he's got the sail on the back, but his body is clearly covered in scales, and they're very pronounced in this version. And his color is very deep red. But they have the same model, you know, the same silhouette. I take a look at the head, for example, and if you compare it to creatures like the, what is it called, a monitor lizard? That's where the inspiration comes from. They have a very slim head, and it looks very, well, lizard-like. I also enjoy the notion that there is different kinds of fire lizards, or speaking generally, different versions of creatures which differ in coloring, for example, because they live in different parts of the island or in different parts of Metana. I like this. So I never really had a favorite fire lizard, but it is what it is. So the remake takes a different approach. Well, not really so much different, but it takes inspiration from the Gothic 2 lizard, which is obviously the dark red one. And I like 80% of the creature of the remake. That is the body, the sail, but I don't like the head. The head looks too big, too draconic, and these weird appendages or horns sprouting out of the back of the head, they're just too much for me. And with the demon that we got, the screenshot of the demon, I think there is too much visual noise. As you can see, the lizard is burning. There's flames on his skin, and to be honest, that doesn't really make sense to me. I know they're living in rocky environments or on beaches, but imagine the thing running into the wood because he chases whatever, a scavenger, to eat it, to roast it, and then he sets the whole forest ablaze, which is crazy. However, I like the idea that, as you can see, he's breathing fire right now, and his throat is getting inflated, and it changes its coloring, and that kind of reminded me of the Hobbit movies, when Smaug is about to breathe fire. His chest is filling with fire, his throat is filling with fire, and you can see the fire shining through the scales. And I always like that. And you could actually have this as a gameplay element. So before he breathes fire, you can see that his throat is swelling and he's about to burst out a flame, to visualize that, hey, now's the best time to dodge this attack. And I hope they're going with something like that. Well, that's the lizard. Again, generally I like it, but I think sometimes less is more. Give him his more lizard-like appearance when it comes to his head, to his face. And that's all I can say about that. So, another screenshot is the Ore Baron cella. And what can I say? I like it. I like the lighting, I like the torches, I like the shadows. The atmosphere is really nice. I like the ropes hanging from the ceiling. There is a good amount of detail. You have barrels now properly stored. If you look closely to the left, there seems to be a shelf full of bottles, maybe wine, I don't know. And this is basically, yeah, the VIP area of the fortress of the old camp, you know. Nobody has access to them, to these vaults. And this is where they store all the goods for the ore barons, and possibly also stuff they trade with the other camps. If you take a look at it and you soak up the atmosphere, you really get the feeling that it's damp and dark and dank and wet and all the moisture, and you can almost smell this picture, and this is what I like about it. And there's not really much to say about it. I don't know exactly which part it is. It's definitely not the first room that you get into once you climb down the ladder, you know, to the side of the Ore Baron house. It's way too big for that. So maybe we can get to a completely different part of the dungeons. Maybe they expand the dungeons under the fortress, which would be very, very nice. But okay then, let's move on. There we go again. The goblins. Well, what can I say? I already spoke my mind about it. I'm not really fond of the new design. I can say that there is a visual variety going on. The one in the front, the centerpiece, is wearing only one pauldron. He's got the big club, which looks like scrambled together from rocks and leather pieces that the goblin found. The goblin at the fire seems to wear two pauldrons, maybe a goblin warrior, maybe, I don't know. And there is another goblin standing next to the fire, and I don't know what it is, but there is some kind of thing on his back. It could be just a leather strip, but can goblins now wear bows? Imagine that. But I think it's just a leather strap, and it's too low res to say anything about it. But hey, it is what it is. I hope they don't get bows. Imagine that. I hate these little bastards. They're stabbing you, and they swarm you. You don't have a chance, at least in low levels. Imagine they have bows now. Oh my god. But again, let's talk about the general appearance of the goblins. Again, I said my piece. If you take a look at the original goblins, they had a very scaly skin and were very reptilian in nature, like their appearance, you know. It's like the next evolutionary step after some kind of lizard creature. That's how they looked in Gothic 1 and Gothic 2, and I'm really fond of their character design and of their AI, that they're circling you, and it really fits their mischievous character. And they have this very, very big toothy grin. I can see that they're kind of going for these characteristics, but in general, they look too human-like, too humanoid. They have this weird human-like nose, while the version in Gothic 1 and Gothic 2 was way more feral. And I like that design more. Well, I'm also wondering where this location is. I thought to myself, this is in front of the cave where you find the almanac that you need to find for the Brotherhood, but I'm not completely sure about that. However, there seems to be a cave in the background, and you see this makeshift encampment that they build, and there seems to be, I don't know, what is that in the background? Is that some kind of sail from a boat? And they converted it now into some kind of sunroof to chill out. Well, maybe this is a completely new location. I don't know. I hope we get some new locations like this, you know, just little extra caves to explore, to mix things up. What I do say is that I really like the rock that you can see above the cave, and you have those vines creeping on the rock and the foliage. That looks pretty good. Also, the ground is cluttered with stuff. There is like wooden contraptions lying on the floor, maybe an old fence or whatever. Stones. I like it that there is more ground clutter, effectively. Yeah, this is all. Let's go on to the next screenshot. Ah, we know this place. Obviously, this is the first gate we pass through once we enter the colony, once we're getting thrown into the pond, into the lake. And this is basically where we find Ori. Maybe Ori is just leaning on that wagon over there, but I don't know. Our friend Diego seems to be walking right under it, and another guard standing atop of the gate. So, what can I say about this? Well, first and foremost, I like the dull color palette. I like it. I always envisioned the colony in my head to be this very bleak place in a way. It has flora, obviously, there is the forest, but the impression that I got was that it really was a place full of washed out colors. The dullness is getting emphasized, you know, especially on this screenshot by the rock and the grass. It's green, but it's not really that green. I also like all the visual, again, the visual variety that we see here. They put so much more detail into it, and little things hinting at things to come. For example, you can see the wheel and the crate and the barrels to the right, and the wagon where possibly Ori is leaning on. There are actually signs that there is trade going on with the outside world. Something that we haven't really seen in the original game, to be honest. I mean, we are told that there is ongoing trade or for outside wares like women, wine, beer, bread, and all that kind of stuff. But we never really see that there is a transport going on from the old camp to the pass. And maybe we get this in the remake. And if I recall correctly, they already said something along the lines that they want to breathe more life into this aspect of the game, which I really like. Whatever. However, it seems like this little plateau on the right is gone. I show you the picture, kind of the same angle in Gothic 1, and you can see that there is a small plateau where a few trees are standing, and this plateau had no function in the original game. There was nothing, not even some plants to pick up, not even a meat bug, whatever. But I kind of like the plateau, and if I think about, you know, doing a remake, maybe I would have put a little hut or a shack on this plateau where guards actually go for sleep or to hang out when they're not guarding the gate. And maybe you could have done something like breathing some life into this little, very small area, placing some herbs there, maybe a different weapon type that you can find there. But in the screenshot from the remake, I think it seems like this area is blocked off. If you look to the gate to the right, there is this weird fence with a, I don't know, is that a net or something? It looks like a fishing net. In the original Gothic, you can just, you know, climb over these things, but man, the playable teaser left a very, very bitter taste in my mouth when it comes to climbing, because exploration wasn't really a big thing in the playable teaser. But again, they said they're scrapping everything except some assets, and they're doing it from the ground. They're building it up again from the ground up, starting anew with everything. So maybe there will be a little area that you can get through. But I would be a little sad if they cut this small plateau. Also, you can see again the banner of the old camp slash the royals, the king, and it's this sword, the golden sword on the red ground, and the flag, the banner looks really tattered and torn, giving you the impression that nobody cares about that inside the colony. Now they have their own ruler. They don't give a shit about that. Officially, yes, they're in the hand of the king, but it is its own microcosm. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Here is the meat, the juice. This, my dear friends, is the man who controls the ore. The man who controls the colony. Gomez. And I don't like it. I'm sorry to be so negative, but hey, it is what it is. Well, let's start at the top. So, I don't know if it's the light, but I can see his iconic gray strand of hair. That is like, if I think of Gomez, this is like one of the key things, you know? Just this spot of gray hair that he has on his widow's peak. The next thing is his expression, especially in his eyes. I mean, if we look at the old version of Gothic, obviously it's a 20-year-old model, you know. It's 20 years old. Back in the day, you didn't have high-definition textures and all that. But when you visualize Gomez in your mind, you know, back in the day, and you hear his voice, you get this more vivid picture of him in your head. And I thought that he always looked his eyes were looking very cold and calculating, but in a very neutral way, you know. He didn't show disdain or whatever. He wasn't very wrathful, at least in the German version. He's very, very calm and collected. And I think that they should do something about his eyes, that he looks more, you know, again, menacing in that way, in a passive way. He looks kind of too nice in this picture almost. Obviously, it also depends on the voice acting and stuff like that, but yeah. Now let's go to the thing that bothers me the most, and that is the beard. I mean, if you think of Gomez, he's got the mustachio, you know, the mustache, and obviously this design has the mustache, but what I don't like is the stubble on his chin, and he's kind of got this weird soul patch thing going on. This is not Gomez. Gomez is a clean-shaven man, but he has a mustache. You know, this is like, that's him. You know, nothing else. And if we take a look at his face in general, I think his head is too roundish. The original design, I had the impression that it was more oval shaped, more aggressive in a way, and that face kind of reminds me of someone, and I couldn't really point my finger on it until I went to sleep and I looked at it again. Then I was like, yep, that's it. And you know how he looks like? Oh yeah, it's Lambert from The Witcher 3. Yeah, not exactly, but I mean, come on. There is some parallels, obviously. Like the head shape, he's got the widow's peak, and give him the fucking cat's eye and post that picture unrelated. And many people would say, hey man, that might be Lambert from the next Witcher game. You know, could be possible. I don't know. Before we go into the next subject, I want to talk about the armor that he's wearing, the Orbaron armor. I'm not too impressed. You know why? It's very simple. I like the original Orbaron armor because it looked kind of regal. You know, like okay, this is somebody who can fight, but also who is in a high position of a ruling class. You know. And the mix was very good, but what I liked about it, that it was so broad, you know. And I talked about this also in a few videos back that I did. I said that the reason for the old Baron armor looking so broad, the people wearing that, they look so buff, like they have very, very broad shoulders. The reason for that is simply that back in the day, creating fur, it was just one blocky texture, you know, and now we have the ability to create a very detailed fur, a more realistic approach of fur. It's not, by all means, it's not like perfect, but it's way more realistic like back in the day compared to back in the day. But however, it takes away the iconic broad silhouette of the Orbarons. And I think they should do something about it. Give him some bigger shoulder plates, some pauldrons or whatever, which make his silhouette a little wider. Then put the fur on top of it. I think then we have a better visual identity comparing it to the first game. But yeah, that is Gomez, man. Again, I said what I said, and I don't regret anything. So, let's come to the last point. A very shady thing to talk about. Well, let's move on. So, after some of these screenshots were posted on Reddit, somebody also posted like the origin, and those screenshots originated from a magazine. And I'm not really sure what kind of magazine. It was something Eastern European. I should have wrote that down, but damn, I'm a lazy fuck. So they gave us the screenshots, and they were also talking about the game. And after the screenshots were posted on Reddit, somebody else also on Reddit talked about something else they addressed. And apparently in this interview, they said that they are outsourcing some of their work. I don't want to say this is a fact because I haven't read it myself. I just saw the Reddit post, so please bear with me. This is not a fact. This is a rumor for all I know. And what they said is that they outsource the armor designs or the rendering of the armor, the creating of the armor to a different studio. So, well, what can I say? outsourcing in that industry is nothing new. Back in the day, it was unthinkable, but we just come to this day and age where it is a business practice that is done regularly. You know, we've seen it a lot of times. However, some people said, hey, oh, not a big deal, so they can concentrate on the essential things, basically gameplay and quests and all that, and coding or whatever, getting rid of bugs. And I see that. But there were other people. The pessimistic crowd, the naysayers, the grumpy grandpas, you know, my group, basically, who said, well, they were talking about being big fans and they want to be true to the original, yada yada yada. Why don't they do it themselves? I mean, you can give concepts, all the old screenshots with descriptions to that different studio and say, hey, these are the things that we want to have with this armor type, and this is what it's going to look. But still, it's a different studio, you know. I think before they do something like that, they should do a proper design themselves and then give this design away to maybe work on details, to give it the last defining features. I don't know, more more definition or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a game developer. But again, I'm not really sure to what degree they are doing this. I really don't know. But it kind of makes me raise an eyebrow, you know? I'm like, hey guys, you know what? I don't care how long it takes until we get the game. Take another half a year, you know? Supposedly it's going to be released 2024 this year, but if they're going like, hey, we need another half a year, another year, I'm like, yeah, sure, take your time, man. Take your time. Take your time, work on the things. I mean, you cannot go for perfection because perfection doesn't exist, in my opinion. But you can be pretty close, you know? So, again, I wouldn't care if they say we need more time for that. But, you know, it is what it is. However, again, outsourcing leaves a bitter taste in my mouth when I look back at things that I really disliked for being outsourced. I think of Warcraft 3 Reforged. Look, I'll give you a little picture right now. I know that Warcraft Reforged has a lot of problems, gameplay-wise, stability, the technical side of things. But I also think that the character designs were horrible, at least some of them. And this picture that I'm showing right now is depicting Arthas. And just look how ridiculously huge his pauldrons are. And then his so fucking long hair, it's just crazy. It's just so crazy. I know, look, I'm a lifelong Warcraft fan. I play World of Warcraft for 20 years. I've started with Warcraft 3, you know. I know that Warcraft is about, you know, being muscle, out of proportion, big shoulders, big pauldrons and all that kind of crap. But this look is looking very, very hilarious. Very hilarious. It looks like my joke from the beginning. It kind of looks like Raid Shadow Legends, like one of these weird mobile games, you know. And again, this is what I'm reminded of. But hey, only time will tell. So, thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you liked it, my sweet little take on these things. I hope that this year will be a good year for Gothic enjoyers, Gothic fan communities all over the world. I hope we can rejoice once more after all those years of being let down by the studio that shall not be named, that is in deep trouble, it seems. But yeah, there was just time to wait to replay the good old classics from back in the day. And only time will tell. I try not to be too hopeful. I constantly remind myself to keep my feet on the ground. But Well. Yeah, guys. Thanks for listening. I see you next time. There is something coming in the next weeks, maybe? Just giving you a little hint at something to come. But yeah, I wish you a fucking good one. Keep it up, guys. Stay strong, stay gothic, man. Bye-bye.